So, welcome everybody. I'm Anna Greer, host of this summit, and I'm absolutely delighted to welcome someone who will be no stranger to people who are aware of the fatigue world, the wonderful Ashok Gupta, who is very well known and an internationally renowned speaker, filmmaker, and health practitioner who's dedicated his life to supporting people through chronic illness and achieving their potential. Now, Ashok suffered from ME, or chronic fatigue syndrome, around 25 years ago when he was studying at Cambridge University. Through neurological research that he conducted, he managed to get himself 100% better. And he then set up a clinic to treat others, and then published the well-known neuroplasticity limbic retraining recovery program known as the Gupta program in 2007. He's also published several medical papers and is continually researching these conditions. And in 2017, he published a popular 4.7 star rated app called the Meaning of Life Experiment, a 30-day program of videos and meditations to discover more happiness, meaning, and to uncover your life purpose. So, Ashok, a very warm welcome indeed.
Yes, thank you, Anna. Thanks for inviting me on the summit.
It's absolutely brilliant to have you, Ashok. So I'm wondering if you could tell the audience a little bit about your story.
Yes, so like many of us who are helping others with these various conditions like fatigue, my journey started with my own experience, my own challenges. So as you've mentioned, I suffered from it at university. I had ME, or chronic fatigue syndrome. And, for me, it was like a brick wall because I'm a young man, I'm about to start life's adventure. And suddenly doctors are telling me that I'm going to have this condition for the rest of my life. There's nothing I can do about it. And, in my worst days, I was, housebound, couldn't get out of bed. And, people ask me, what does that feel like? And I say, well, when you have ME, or chronic fatigue syndrome, it's like your worst day of flu times 10. You really just feel like you can't do anything. And that started a lifelong quest for me to try and understand some of these more severe chronic illnesses, not just fatigue, but chronic fatigue and chronic fatigue syndrome. And I remember in my darkest moment thinking, I've met, so many people who have this condition. There's millions around the world who suffer from it. And I made a promise with the universe that if I can figure out how to get myself better, I will dedicate the rest of my life to helping others, with chronic illnesses, chronic fatigue, and really try and get this information out there. And so I managed to do a lot of research into the brain neurology of these types of conditions, physiology, lots of different treatments. And in a very ad hoc way, I retrained my brain, got myself well, and then set up a global neuroplasticity clinic to treat others with these chronic conditions. So that's been my journey.
Absolutely amazing. Now, I know you're really hot on the mind-body connection, aren't you, Ashok? And I wonder if you could reflect on the importance of that in a calm neurology for the audience.
Yes, absolutely. So if I can kind of start with the kind of hypothesis actually of why I work with the mind more than other kind of aspects of our existence. So I always like to ask the biggest question of all: why are we here? Right? And we could answer that from a philosophical perspective, which would be lovely, but from a scientific perspective, we're here because over millions of years of evolution, this brain and this nervous system have evolved to help us survive. So the number one priority of the brain and the body is survival, so we can pass on our genes to the next generation. Yep. So we bear that principle in mind. Then what happens is we are not living according to our genetic inheritance in terms of the way that we're living. So right now, I split these into 4 categories: MEND. The MEND protocol is what I call it, that determines our health and our levels of energy and our fatigue. So M stands for mind and meditation. So first, and I think this is the most important piece of the jigsaw puzzle when it comes to our energy levels and fatigue. So the mind aspect is we are living more stressful lives. We aren't resting our nervous system as much. So the mind aspect is so important. Then E is for exercise, and we are now living more sedentary lifestyle, so we're not getting as much exercise as we used to, which is contributing to fatigue. N stands for nighttime routine, which is essentially sleep. So we're not sleeping as deeply and as long as we used to in previous generations, which is also contributing to fatigue. And D stands for diet, which is the fact that we're eating more foods full of toxins, more artificial and processed foods, and not enough natural foods. So I believe that MEND, the MEND protocol, is the 4 major pillars or components of our physical health and energy and fatigue. And sometimes we call it the MENDS protocol with an S at the end for social. So our social life and social interactions also impacts on our energy levels. But the reason I believe that the mind is the most important is because a lot of the fatigue that we experience is based upon 2 aspects. Number 1, how busy is the mind? Yeah. How many thoughts are we having? How many emotions are we having? How much are we worrying? Worrying is the number 1 factor, I believe, in draining our energy. And the classic example of this is, somebody could be sitting at a desk all day, right? So their physical body is hardly being used. We can't be physically fatigued. But the amount of mental energy or stress or worry which is being consumed, that directly impacts at the end of the day, that person feels exhausted and tired just from the mental busyness. So number 1 is just the absolute number of thoughts, emotions, and worries which are occurring. And secondly, specific worries. So we often have specific aspects of our personality which drain our energy. So as an example, if we're very much an achiever personality trait, we will get more tired and more stressed during the day because we're constantly worried about our achievement, whether we're getting things done. Or if we are an approval seeker personality, we're constantly worried about what other people are thinking of us, how they will respond to us, which keeps our nervous system tight and drains our energy. So you can see the 2 aspects is the general level of busyness in the mind, and secondly, specific aspects of our personality that drain our energy.
It sounds like your definition of mind is very somatic. It's not a kind of, Descartes' disembodied mind thing at all, is it? It's a brain nervous system concept of the mind that is extended through the body, through the somatic system.
Absolutely, yes. So many of our kind of more intellectual, left-brained philosophers have kind of separated this mind-body complex, and actually it's recognizing that it's one organism, and every thought and emotion that we have impacts on our body, and our body in reverse impacts on our mind and emotions. And therefore a holistic approach to health is incredibly important.
So would you then kind of explore a bit about meditation in relation to that? Because you mentioned meditation in the context of that somatic mind.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you see meditation playing into that, Ashok? And how do you see meditation functioning as a recovery tool specifically?
Well, yes, we are here at the clinic are a big fan of meditation. It's one of the most popular tools that we use with our patients. And essentially, the way to look at meditation is, imagine your mind is like the car, okay? So you are the conscious, rational mind, the intellect, as it were, and you step into your car, and your car is meant to take you where you want to go yourself. Yeah. So the mind is not. We don't want to describe the mind as its own entity. It is a tool or a function to engage with the world and learn about the world. Yeah. And we are the person who can be aware of our mind. But now the car is on automatic pilot, taking us where it wants to go. And instead of us being the driver, we end up being the passenger, almost the victim of our mind, doing whatever the whims and fancies come up. And in that context, what then happens is we are no longer the witnessing awareness of our mind. We are completely embroiled in our mind, and it takes us wherever it wants to go. And actually, we want to take a step out of the car and recognize the car is a tool. It is our servant. It's to take us where we want to go. And that's where meditation comes in, because what meditation allows you to do is step out of that car and say, hey, my dear car, I don't want you to drive me wherever you fancy. I choose to now take control. Yeah. And so meditation is the process of training the mind or training yourself not to be so embroiled in the ups and downs of the mind, the worries, the future, the past, etc. But instead to take a step back and observe all that noise and actually be in the present moment in this witnessing awareness of, I can observe the car. I'm not driven around so fast by the car. I can observe it now. Step out of the car. Yeah. And that regular training of the mind means that eventually all this busyness of the mind, the thoughts, the worries, the past, the future, anticipation, anger, all of that no longer affects us as much. because we're able to observe it rather than be embroiled with it. And gradually that noise begins to calm down. And as that noise calms down, like a training course, eventually we stop leaking energy, which essentially means that rather than every time we have a worry or a thought, we drain a bit of our energy, we get a bit more fatigued. Now there's less of that leakage and we become more efficient and effective human beings. The mind becomes efficient, the brain becomes efficient. It's no longer leaking that energy. And so as we regularly meditate, all these benefits come. And, people often say to me, well, Ashok, I can't meditate because I have a very busy mind and it doesn't work, right? And that is the whole point, right? It's like, if you could sit down and meditate and completely have a clear mind, you're either dead or you are incredibly advanced in terms of your own evolution, right? But for all of the rest of us in the middle ground, meditation is not about having an empty mind with no thoughts. It's simply a process of recognizing that busyness and taking a step back, recognizing the busyness, taking a step back. And meditation, what's incredible about this is, imagine if we had a miracle pill, right? Let's say we had a pill that reduced or halved the number of times we saw a doctor or went to the hospital. Yeah, imagine that was a pill you could take every day. You think, well, that would be a miracle drug of the 21st century. I mean, it doesn't exist. And yet a Harvard study in 2015, which should have been front page news, it found that people who learned meditation had a 43% drop in their visits to a doctor or a hospital. And they followed them for a year. Now that's pretty incredible, yeah, in terms of research, that we could reduce healthcare costs just by this one simple intervention. So meditation for me is really a miracle that all of us should experience. There's so much clinical evidence behind it, and I hope everyone gets a chance to practice it.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you said what you said about the quiet mind, because I think it's one of the greatest misconceptions that people make when they're not meditators, when they haven't practiced. They don't it can set up an incredible sense of false failure, actually, and put people off meditation. Whereas I'm with you. Meditation is about a changed relationship to the mind, and that changed relationship to the mind and to the emotions and the body and all the rest of it means a changed relationship to life in general that is profoundly transformative and wonderful. And of course, there's more to it. We could get into awakening and go into the whole thing. So Ashok, in line with that, what do you think fatigue is saying into human consciousness? I mean, what is it that we collectively need to learn from this symptomatic speech that's coming out of so many bodies now?
So many people, as you say, are suffering from fatigue more and more. It's the modern illness. So many people see their doctors about fatigue. And in general, when we meet someone, what do they say? How are you? Oh, just been really busy, really, really busy. Yeah, quite tired. Yeah, lots of things going on. And the key message into our consciousness that I think is happening is slow down, calm down. Yeah. We are now all become achievers. We're all trying to live this maximizer life of maximizing our work, maximizing our personal life. We're not taking time to rest. And the moment that there is a little window of opportunity to rest in our lives, we go straight on our phones or our devices and start trying to entertain ourselves, try to fill those gaps. So the mind is never getting a rest. So fatigue is coming into the consciousness to essentially give us a message to slow down, calm down. All of this running around or racing that we think we're doing as a civilization is not getting us anywhere fast. It's like a hamster on a wheel. And actually the key message is, rather than us trying to gain happiness and pleasure and upliftment from the people and situations of our lives, it's time to be still and go inwards and recognize that peace and happiness that we've been searching for all around us is already within us. It's like that man who's walking in a desert. He's saying, I need water, I need food, I don't know where to go. And is so thirsty and so hungry. And yet in his backpack, he's carrying all the water and food that he needs. He just doesn't recognize it. He's got to go inwards rather than looking outside. And I think that is a key message of fatigue.
And obviously that's the key message as well to us as individuals when we suffer from fatigue. I mean, I'm very struck by your journey and the journey of so many others who are luminaries now in helping other people with fatigue to recover. It seems as though that gives a sense of purpose into the community of fatigue sufferers as well, because it seems that there's something deeply transformative that happens when a life is interrupted by serious fatigue and forced, as you say, to look within and do this deeper work. Do you think that the fatigue community can take encouragement from that? And I'm thinking about people who are really debilitated, people who maybe are still bedbound. Mm-hmm. Is there a purpose for them to hold on to amidst their suffering that gives it some deeper meaning?
Yes, we go very deep into this in our program, in the Gupta program, in terms of the brain retraining. And this is an important part of it, which is this complete reframing of why this illness is happening. Because we can feel a victim otherwise. We think, why has God chosen me to punish? It can be a very kind of victim mentality. And actually it's recognizing that when it comes to step changes in our spiritual evolution, they come from the big challenges of life. Perhaps it's a divorce or relationship ending or an illness or a losing of a career or job or bankruptcy. These big challenges that come to us can feel so awful. And in the moment, it can make us very down and depressed. But if we can just hold on to that one spiritual concept, which is this is happening at a very deep level for our strengthening, for our growth. Yeah, people say, it's happening for a reason, and we think that that reason is a positive reason, right? So we think, so there's some good going to come out of this. Yes, and that good is not just, something good will come, but that actually all of these different challenges in life come to strengthen us. They come to give us that incredible power, and that can only come when we're challenged. And someone said, if you ask God for courage, does God just give you courage? Just like that, flick of his fingers or her fingers? Or does God say, let me give you a challenge within which you can develop courage? Yeah. And so I don't, this is no disrespect for people who are going through very hard challenges. This isn't saying that we've welcomed this into our lives or we want this, but now that it's here, we use it as an opportunity to say, this is for my growth and my strengthening, and I will come out of this stronger. And if anyone said to me that when I was ill, I would have probably punched them in the face, right? 25 years ago, right? But you can only see the growth and the strengthening afterwards. Yeah. And now I look back and I'm so glad I had that experience, because I grew, I evolved, I transformed as a result of that. And I wouldn't change a single thing. And the secret is, can you feel that? Can you be aware of that whilst you're in the midst of the challenge?
That's it. And that's where that framing can be so helpful for people who can actually grip it, who can actually receive that. And as you just implied, it's very difficult to do that sometimes when you're in the depths of it. It can be very frustrating to hear people say, there's a deeper purpose when you're feeling so grim. But that framing is incredibly resourcing. Immensely resourcing.
Yeah, and the frame that we use that really helps people at the clinic is this idea of a caterpillar and a butterfly. So the caterpillar has been living his life or her life in any way that they wanted to, but it's been at a lower level on the ground. And suddenly they go into a cocoon. Now that cocoon is very painful for the caterpillar. Yeah, and they are often, taken away from their normal life, and they're in the cocoon, but they have to be in the cocoon to sprout those wings, and even sprouting those wings can be painful. But eventually, as they struggle out of that cocoon, out of their old life, they strengthen their wings and they're able to fly, and they have evolved to a new, higher being, a more self-aware being with a bigger perspective. And so it is for especially the illnesses we go through, like ME and chronic fatigue syndrome. They're a deep transformer, not just a teacher, but a transformer of our life. And all of our patients, when they recover, they say, I'm not going to go back to the old way that I used to live. I now recognize the deeper learning that has come from this. And anyone can do this exercise, and we do it in our clinic regularly, is to simply go inwards and ask the condition, whether it's the fatigue, the symptoms you're experiencing, what is your message to me? What are you trying to tell me? Or what are you protecting me from? Yeah. Or indeed, what emotion have I not resolved in my life? Because a lot of these illnesses come for three reasons. One is a message. That can be a message to live life differently to the way you were before. Secondly, a protection mechanism. It's actually protecting you from something you want to avoid. Or thirdly, it's informing you that there's an experience in life, maybe a traumatic experience or a bereavement, an emotion that essentially hasn't been resolved yet. And this is a message to go deep within and to move through that experience.
Absolutely, because it takes a lot of energy, doesn't it, to repress
Mm,
difficult, disruptive emotional material. And again, I come back to meditation, because so often in my own practice, I find that states move through and one is able to actually just relax back and let difficult states move through the neurology in 90 seconds or so.
mm,
Um, and dropping in, as you said before, stop slowing down, dropping in, really checking in, and really getting in touch with the
mm,
deeper layers of the self seems so empowering.
mm.
Ashok, if you had to give fatigue sufferers like one key thing that they really need to do, say they're new to the whole thing and they're confused
Mm.
by their fatigue, what would you say? Where should they start?
I think the first port of call is if somebody has a kind of general fatigue. So it's not really an illness as such, but they just find themselves day to day general fatigue in life. They're not living their full potential. Then I would look at the MEND protocol, which is essentially starting off with M for mind. So look at meditation. Meditation is the quickest and easiest way, I believe, to re-energize your mind and your energy levels, and combined with that breathing. So when I say mind, that's meditation and breathing techniques are very powerful for that. And a breathing technique we recommend is by the Art of Living Foundation, which is a very powerful breathing technique to energize the body. So I would start with that. E is for exercise. So how much are we getting out and exercising? It doesn't have to be exercise. It can be just brisk walking in nature can be brilliant. N for nighttime routine, really deepening and lengthening your sleep as much as possible. And D for diet. I don't just talk about diet. There's 101 articles every day published on what is a good, healthy, energizing diet, so people know about that. But that would be my starting point: is completely revolutionize and transform your lifestyle and really meditate every day.
Mm.
If your body has now gone to that next stage of chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME, and then maybe even fibromyalgia, where it's actually a pain syndrome in the body, and we also treat sensitivity reactions, so that can be mold illness or those kinds of conditions, and obviously long COVID as well. A lot of people getting long COVID. So if you've got a distinct starting point where suddenly you've got a very intense fatigue and illness that's continuing, that is likely to be what we call a neuroimmune condition syndrome, so an actual illness that has now occurred. And then we believe that, our protocols such as ourselves, the brain retraining neuroplasticity approach, is the way forward, where it's actually training the brain out of this conditioned response to bring it back to balance and get the energy back into the body. So that's more of a deep healing program.
And I guess that's where neurology and neural calming and the amygdala hypothesis and all the rest of it really comes into its own.
Absolutely. So the MEND protocol, that in general is calming down the amygdala part of the brain. But the Gupta program is very much about specifically retraining the aspects of the amygdala and also a brain structure called the insula, where our immune reactions are stored.
Mm.
And that is that kind of, as you say, the neurocalming. It's saying these two brain structures are overreacting, and they're causing two things. One is an overstimulation of our nervous system, so we're constantly in that fight or flight response. And secondly, they're overstimulating the inflammatory immune system. Yeah, so inflaming our body, causing the deep fatigue and causing the pain in the body and the lack of energy, because the immune system is not designed to be continually stimulated. And the brain retraining is to switch off those two systems, or at least bring them back to balance, so that energy returns.
Absolutely.
And this is an interesting point, because obviously a lot of people will talk about how fatigue is caused by a fight or flight.
Yes.
Actually, a lot of our fatigue is caused by this background inflammatory response, this immuno response. And because we live in a more dangerous, toxic world in terms of chemicals and pollution, this inflammatory response is continually there in the background, draining our energy, which is the modern disease. And therefore, when these conditions come along and you get a trigger, that then turns into full-blown chronic fatigue illness. And that inflammatory response uses up a lot of energy. Just like if we have COVID-19 infection or we have flu, the symptoms are not being caused by the virus. The symptoms are being caused by our own immune system looking to fight off the virus. And that's what people sometimes don't recognize.
Yeah.
And therefore, that deep severe fatigue is our own immune system unnecessarily being stimulated.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some mitochondrial involvement, isn't there, in all of that?
Yeah, exactly. Cell danger response, all of these types of things. When we're in that dangerous response, the body doesn't need so much, or what, a lot of the energy of the body is being diverted to defensive systems. And
Yeah.
that's why we said right at the beginning, the body cares more about your survival than it does your wellness.
Yes, absolutely. So your free gift, I think, would speak to this as well in quite a deep way, Ashok, because I think have you got a free meditation for the audience?
Yes, definitely. So we've got a video on how to meditate. So people don't need to think about it. It's just a short 15 to 20-minute video on how to meditate, and then a couple of meditation downloads on MP3. So you can download it to your phone and you have those to keep forever. So we've got I think it's the body meditation and the peace meditation, two of our most popular meditations, which are very good for beginners. And they can download those and experiment with those. And of course, we have our app, which is called the Meaning of Life Experiment, which is a free not-for-profit app. You just type in Meaning of Life Experiment, and then you can download the app, and that's got lots of other streaming meditations upon it as well.
Oh, thank you. That's incredibly rich. I'm sure everyone, you appreciate the depth and richness implied by that gift. And I'm going to put a link below the video, and it's got 48 hours to watch the video and download the gift. So do that. I just want to thank you, Ashok, very warmly on behalf of myself and the audience for giving us your time and your expertise, and for all the amazing work you're doing for people all over the world. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you to you.